Good evening, everyone. And thanks all for joining. It's a very special day and a topic today because we have our youth volunteers join in. An important discussion today. I think a lot of you are going to go back to college or maybe high school or, wherever you are in your academic journey. So, a special session which is to talk about back to school stress, race, relationships, and more. All of these are very prevalent in our lives and especially our youth group. So we are delighted to have here Vedika, who is also going to be moderating, Ria, Arav, Anushka, Sahana, and we'll be having a couple more youth members joining in. So Vedika, the floor is all yours, and let's begin to the topics that the team has planned, and of course, a brief introduction about yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Vedika Garg. I am going to be a sophomore in college, and I go to ISU, Illinois State University. Um, and today, what we're going to do is have a discussion on the things or difficult obstacles that students might have to face involving back to school and stress. And we're doing this to kind of promote healthy discussion around these issues. So I was hoping we could go around the call and maybe introduce your name, your grade, and maybe one thing you're excited about for the upcoming school year.
Okay, I could go first. My name is Ria. I'm an incoming senior at Naperville Central, and I think the biggest thing I'm just excited for is senior year. It's just like the final home stretch, and especially second semester when I get to cut loose a little bit, and after like college applications are all over.
I can go next. I'm Sahana. I'm also going to be a senior at Naperville Central. I would say one thing that I'm excited about is similar like senior year traditions, but also moving forward with college and figuring out where I'm going to go to college and things like that.
I can go next. I'm Anushka. I go to Adlai East Stevenson High School, and I'm a rising junior. We just started school today, and I really think mental health is important because especially until recently, people haven't been talking about mental health. It's such a huge topic, and it's so important to all of our lives. So I'm really glad to be here today.
Hi, my name is Arav. I go to Nico Valley High School in Naperville. And one thing that I'm excited about junior year is just becoming an upcoming upperclassman. There's new responsibilities and new challenges that you have to tackle, but I think I'll be ready for it when it comes. So I'm excited about that.
All right. Nice. So I see we have a new member here. Basically, what we're doing is we're stating our name, our grade, and one thing we're excited about for the upcoming school year.
Okay. Hi, my name is Swaroop Bhaskar, and I go to Mattia Valley. I'm a senior, and I'm excited for the football season to come because I playing it, and I'm looking forward towards like figuring out like where I'm gonna go for college and stuff. And yeah.
Okay, got it. Very nice. So with that, I'll start off with our first question, and feel free to just kind of unmute and say whatever you want to say. How has social media affected your personal relationships, and has it helped or hurt you in any way?
I can start. For me, I think Instagram especially, I still have my account up, but I had to delete the app off my phone just because I think more than like scrolling on and spending too much time on my phone, I think Instagram in general, a lot of people say this, but you're only posting like the good parts about your life and about yourself. I think it's so easy to compare yourself to other people who you see, especially your peers, which is mostly who you follow on Instagram, seeing how their life is or like how many likes or comments or followers they have. For me personally, I think it hurt me and hurt my mental health, so I decided to delete it. In terms of other social media platforms like Snapchat, I think it's hard to be in high school without having Snapchat just because it's a form of communication, whether it's like for homework or just meeting new people. So I think Snapchat in general, while it can be dangerous and you should be careful and monitor it well, I think it's a pretty useful app to have, especially if you're in high school, just to communicate with people.
Okay, nice. Anybody else?
I can go next. So I've seen both good and bad sides of social media. So as Ria said, like it can definitely be bad for your mental health, especially when you're comparing to other people. But I've also seen that social media can be really helpful. Especially for me, it's one of the ways that I connect with so many people at my school because my school is quite big, and Instagram especially is a really easy way to just keep in touch with recommendations or tips from each other, especially from my seniors. I got a lot of tips and advice for this coming junior year. So I feel like it's really good that way. And then I also have a podcast, Compass of the Mind. So using social media, I've been able to reach out to a lot of people, create a community with a lot of people. So I can also see how social media can be helpful. But then again, you don't want to spend too much time, as Ria said.
Yeah, so I'm going to college. I don't know if anybody else is going to college. I'm pretty sure you guys are all in high school. But one thing that's awesome about social media in college is that every single college has their own social media page. So what you can do is you can join, like my school year that I'm graduating is 2027. So I joined ISU 2027, and you can meet so many new people. There's roommate matching, there's just all sorts of things that you can do on social media. While it is helpful, it's also quite harmful. There is being joining that kind of makes your social media page kind of public. So other people who are on, your year, follow Instagram, can find you and, message you. So there is a little bit of risk there. But at the same time, I would say that I met a lot of friends through social media, and it helped me feel kind of less alone the first couple weeks you move into college because you don't really have many friends. So it can help you, but I would say for more permanent relationships, it's important to meet people in person. Is there anybody else who has any more things that they want to add?
In my opinion, I think just the worst part about social media is just getting caught in the midst of it all, like just being distracted. It could just take away hours upon hours of your day. And that happens to pretty much every single person I know, including myself. So that's just something that everyone has to be careful of, whether it's people in high school, college, or even middle school. I would say that's one of the biggest problems when it comes to social media, just causes of procrastination of other stuff. So
Yes. And I agree with that because, like Ria was saying earlier about comparison, you find yourself comparing yourself to other people online, and that can cause for, insecurities and ruining of relationships very, very easily. So I agree with that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think I fully agree with that. I just think the tricky part about social media is like Arav said, having that discipline of balancing your time well. And I think that's really hard for people who are kind of in high school and looking for those relationships that you do make over social media. And I think when you're looking for that, it's kind of hard to keep that balance. So I just think that that's something that also just develops with time. And like the more you have it and the more you discipline yourself with it.
Does anybody have any tips on like how to maintain that balance?
I think for me and what I've seen kind of with my friends and my peer group, I know people who like set limits on their phone, and I know people that kind of they almost use it as a break, like in between their work. And I know people who do that, but I just also think that the tricky part with that is making sure that doesn't like you don't bypass those limits and bypass those like boundaries that you set on your phone. But I know people who do like implement screen time on their phone. I know people who delete the app altogether at certain times and then add it back whenever they feel like they are in the mental space to use it. So I would say maybe that.
Right, yeah.
For me, especially TikTok, it causes me to procrastinate a lot of stuff because I find myself scrolling on TikTok rather than doing my work. So something that's helped me a lot is I just go home and the first thing I do is finish all my work, and then I can give that time for myself afterwards to scroll on TikTok or do whatever I need. But I think TikTok is the biggest contributor to an intense amount of social media influence on people, and also just procrastinating schoolwork in general. I think scrolling on TikTok, like you can do that for hours without getting bored. So I think that's a pretty in some way like a dangerous app to have, especially in high school or where you have a job where you have a lot of workload, because it can easily cause you to get distracted and procrastinate.
Yeah, I think time management is really important. And I think school really helps you learn how to, learn what works best for yourself. So I definitely agree with all of that. Does anybody have any last thoughts before I move on to the next question?
Yeah, I'd like to add on. It's not just about social media, but like time on your phone in general. I feel like, especially if you have your notifications on throughout the day, you might be tempted to look at it. You might be tempted to get distracted from other things that you might be doing or things that you want to accomplish. So, like, one of the things I do, especially when I'm studying, like at home or something, where it's very calm environment. I'm just trying to get my homework done, for example. I try to put my phone on do not disturb or even keep my phone away from me. So then I get that undivided attention for whatever I'm focusing on in that moment.
Yeah, very nice. With that, I think I'll move on to the next question. How has school and or college changed you as a person?
I think for me, at the beginning in middle school, I think after COVID, I think I was just so, everyone was cooped up inside their homes and had little social interaction outside their family. I think I was so ready to go back to school and live that normal life again. But I think when high school started, the pressure also started. I think in general, it made me a lot more focused on schoolwork. I think I was very easygoing before then. And now I'm very particular about not only schoolwork, but what I wear, because you're always comparing yourself to other people. So I think I generally became more particular about how I am as a person and compared myself to a lot of people.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share?
So I think school for me, it made me like manage like time management like better, and like this taught me how to become like more mature and how to I guess handle like workloads and stress, which could help me like for my whole life. So I think that like was a huge thing on me, and yeah, it was maybe just those two for me.
Yeah. Okay. For me, last year was my freshman year, so that was like a huge change for me, as I'm sure it will be for all of you, because it was the first time I was living on my own. And with my COVID experience, it was freshman year for me that COVID had happened. So I didn't really get to make too many friends during that COVID time because it was right as I had entered high school. So I was quite shaky with my social abilities. I was quite nervous about going to college because I wasn't sure if I was going to make any friends. And the one thing about college is you're so independent that you have to make your own little family, or your own little group of friends. Otherwise, it can be very lonely there. Because the thing that's different about college compared to high school is that people leave you alone. Like nobody is telling you to get things done, to go places. So when I moved to college, it was like for the first time, not only was school on my back, but also, little things like managing my dorm room or having to have meetings with my RA. It's stuff like that that, builds up. But that's not to say that it's a bad thing. I would say college has really helped me grow as a person and, discover what I'm capable of. Because in high school, a lot of the time you're at home with your family, so you don't really know who you are as a person without the influence of other people. So when I moved to college, I got to discover parts of myself that I didn't know existed. So I think college is a great way to kind of figure out who you are and engage in a journey of self-discovery. Anybody else?
I would say school and high school, like especially, has given me so many opportunities to explore, find, and do more regarding my interests. Definitely joining a lot of school clubs and activities. I've been able to not only find the people that I vibe with, my close friends, like Vidika had mentioned, but also finding myself. Like I was able to have and express my own opinions more, especially in high school, because I was able to choose a lot more of my classes, what I really wanted to focus on throughout my life in high school. I got to choose rather than having these standardized classes. I could choose which level of classes I wanted or which kinds of different subjects or electives I would like to take. So, high school for me so far has really been a way to just explore everything and figure out what I want to do, especially post secondary.
Yeah. Do any of you guys have any tips on how to, engage in that self-discovery? Is there any like something helpful that kind of pushed you towards that journey?
I think again, taking classes and joining clubs that fit your interests and what you want to do post high school. And you also get to, if you take those clubs and do those activities, you get to meet people who have the same interests as you, which is a big thing because I think then you just are able to get along with them better. So I think the biggest advice I could give in general about high school is joining clubs and doing, or sports clubs and doing activities that fit your interests because then you can meet more people like you.
Yeah, it's really not that different with college. It's the exact same thing. My advice would be go out. Please go out, meet people, go to clubs. Even if you don't think you'll like the club, maybe you'll meet one friend that's going to be your best friend. You never know, right? So I would say going out, meeting people, kind of pushing your boundaries in terms of instead of staying inside your shell and not really talking to people, try and, talk to one new person a week or something like that. It really helps. All right. So does anybody have any final thoughts on that sort of part before I move on? No, I don't think so. Okay, perfect. So what do you recommend to other upcoming students to help make their transition easier, whether it's middle school, high school, college, whatever it is?
I would say my first piece of advice would be to kind of go in with an open mind. Being open to meet people that are outside of your environment, that are outside of your typical comfort zone, I think is really helpful. I know for me, like some of my best friends and finding my community in high school have been with people that I'd never known before and never known in middle school. So I just think going into high school with an open mind, like we said before, kind of joining those organizations where you feel like you would have a passion in them, I just think will help you find people that are similar to you and people that share similar interests, which will ultimately lead you to finding your community at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think a big part of it is just not overthinking it. These transitions it's a big deal. There's no question about that. It's a lot more challenging in terms of like education and in terms of structure. But if you focus on that more, then it's going to be a lot harder to transition because you're not going to have any time to see what you really like to do and really focus on what you really need to do, like some important fundamentals that you're going to need for the future. So if you think about it too much, then it's just going to kind of honestly ruin your high school experience. You just gotta, like she just said, keep an open mind and don't think about it too much. It's not as hard as the movies make it seem. It's not that bad.
Yeah. Yep. Anybody else?
I would say just putting yourself out there is so important in high school. Like just being yourself and just trying to find other people who are similar to you or like similar things to you, as some of you guys have said, is really important. Because then you can figure out what your next steps might be too, like what you want to do later in high school, what you want to do in college or university. I feel like really just being yourself and just trying to find other people who are similar to you can really help you throughout, not just in high school, but even beyond that.
Yeah. I think one thing that sometimes we get in our brain and we don't really remember is that all of us are the same. we're all experiencing the same thing. So when you get into your mind and you're like, oh, other people are looking at me, what if I'm doing something weird? Just know that everybody's thinking the same things about themselves. Like in college, the first couple weeks are so awkward because everybody is just so focused on making friends and making these like super quick clicks because they don't want to be alone in college. Just know that everybody's the same. Nobody has friends. Everybody's really trying to fit in. And when you remember that, it makes things a little bit easier because you're a little bit less hard on yourself. So in terms of transition, I would say that's my number one tip. Remember that. Try and go out, try and meet people as much as you can, and ask for help. Whenever you need help, do not be afraid to ask for help because I'm sure every professor, every teacher is very willing to lend a helping hand because it's important that you feel fit in with your class because it really makes your learning experience a lot more enjoyable. So don't be afraid to speak up. Anybody else?
So Vedika, we have gotten some questions from posted from the other channels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Has the team responded to all of the predefined topics?
Almost. We have one left,
Sure.
but should we go ahead and do that now then?
Yeah, let's do that and then I'll
Sure.
pose in the questions.
Sure. Yeah, so the final question is, how do you navigate social pressures that you face?
I can start this one off. I think that's a really good question. I definitely have not heard that much from my own peers about social pressures and how to deal with those. That's a topic that people don't really talk about generally. But I think having and expressing your own opinions and being yourself, like going back to that idea of just putting yourself out there, is important to navigating these because then other people can't be like, telling you what to do. Other people can't tell you not to do something that you really want to do. Of course, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is safe for you and others, but otherwise, don't let others discourage you or don't let others try to force you to do certain things. Just go for your goals. I would say just go for whatever you want to do. And then if it doesn't work out, you can always change it. Life is flexible like that. But don't start by like building up a wall or don't start by listening to someone else. Try to figure it out on your own.
I think the biggest thing for me is you need to have an own individual identity and know who you are as a person. And I know it's hard in high school to know exactly who you are as a person because you get influenced by your friends so easily. But I think if you have your basic value system and what you believe is right or wrong, then it's a lot easier to handle peer pressure and you will know like if you want to do that or it's just your friends influencing you to do that or because everyone does it, you do it. You need to have your own value system and your own individual identity and morals. And then it's a lot easier to distinguish what you want and what you're being pressured to do.
Yeah. I mean, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, adding on to that, like I just say that you should probably stay firm with your beliefs and think about what you're doing every time before you get influenced by your friends, because obviously they have a huge impact on you and the way like you act. So I would just say just think about what you're doing. Just take some time and think about like does that match with your beliefs and what you like want to do, and just try to stay on the right track for what fits best, depending on the person.
Yes. So the first thing I want to say is that social pressures are very real. People are going to try and make you do things that you don't want to do. And my best advice in those situations is to just withdraw yourself from that group because people who care about you and people who want you to be comfortable and be friends are not going to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. So first of all, try and withdraw yourself from that situation safely, obviously, and, find other people who are not going to pressure you in that way. I just tend to walk away from those situations because I'm not interested in being pressured to do things that I don't want to do. So any other last thoughts on that before we move on to the questions from the live? new. I don't think so. So let's see when she. Okay.
All right. So thanks. I think this is really great feedback, and I think honest conversations. So I think you all have joined Sanjeevni, and most of you know Sanjeevni works for anyone going through mental health concerns or abuse in life. As some of you are going to start school or college, or you may have already begun the classes, why is mental wellness important? We heard a lot of words: being pressurized, being yourself, stressed, and these keywords have come more a lot of times from each one of you as a matter of fact. So why question is, why do you think mental wellness is important as you begin, whichever year or whatever is the state for you?
Yeah. So I guess I will start with this one. So I personally think that mental wellness is just as important as physical wellness. It's a part of your body. Your brain makes you who you are, makes you do whatever you need to do, so it's so important to take care of your brain first and foremost. So especially after COVID, people had a lot of anxiety, depression, all of that stuff. I've had personal experience with that, and I found it debilitating. You can't be the best you possible if your mind isn't on the same page. So mental wellness is so, so important. And my advice for that is don't wait to ask for help, because a lot of the time when you are, very anxious, very depressed, you wait until it's very late, and it's more difficult to get help. So as soon as you kind of have those first signs of anxiety and depression, go ahead and tell someone, talk to someone, ask for help as much as you can, and things will get so much easier, because I promise everybody goes through it. You are not alone.
I completely agree with everything Vedika said, especially the part where I think mental health and physical health is equal. And I think the biggest reason why it's so important to discuss and talk about it and share your experiences with it is because I feel like in a lot of cultures, especially in immigrant families, I feel like it's a very taboo thing to talk about, and it's not brought up as much. Even the talk of therapy or medications or doing anything to help your mental health, like it's not talked about as much, even though so many people, including myself and people we don't even know, go through it. And again, like it's important to ask for help, but you also need to know how to ask for help and what to do and where to go to. And I think it's really important to have an idea of how you can get help and where you can get help. And that's only going to happen if more people talk about it. So I think it's a really important thing to talk about it, especially with people in our age group. Anxiety and depression are very prevalent in teens and young adults. So I think it's a really important discussion to talk about, and it's not as talked about as much as it should be.
What are your thoughts, Swaroop, Arav, Anushka, or Sahana? Why do you think, to talk about or to feel mental wellness is important? Do you feel that your peers or family or, what are your recommendations? Should family be supporting this? Should peers be talking about it?
Yeah, I think 100%, absolutely. I think it definitely should be something like Ray mentioned that should be very much more normalized to talk about. Just like we mentioned before, it's something that so many people do go through, and even though it might not be completely like put out in the open, it still is something that so many people go through. And I think by talking about it more and by more people being open about it, it genuinely makes those people who are still hiding that in and still want to get help but feel like they can't. I think it makes them a lot more open to the idea. So I just think that normalizing the topic more, talking about it more, making resources for it more out in the open, it would be really, really helpful to that issue.
Sure, I'm going to pick up a cue from you, normalizing, and this is maybe to Swaroop, Arav, or Anushka. I know schools and colleges have a lot of resources where anyone has a concern can always go and get the help. Why do you think normalizing is important in the context of families or families of students, so that you can or one can freely talk about it and discuss or any concerns?
So I think that should be more normalized because so many people probably hide it, like I mentioned before, and some people may just think like it's not that big of a deal. But in reality, like if they feel like more open to talk about it, or they feel that like many others are also going through it, they could talk about it more freely and start to get the help they need or to feel better. Because that's what most people just try avoiding because they think they could deal with it by themselves, or then they feel like it's not as important as it actually might be.
Thank you so much, Swaroop. Vedika, I'm just picking up these questions in the interest of time. So,
Sure.
Arav and Anushka, as teenagers, as college students, it's human nature to like somebody, to date somebody, to be in a relationship. Do you think dating in school, or having a girlfriend or a partner or a boyfriend, causes concerns in academics or mental wellness?
I mean, there are a lot of ways where it can be like a major concern. Uh, there is a certain point where it can just straight up just cause major distractions, leading away from academics. Um, because I mean, school is also a very social place. Like whether it's like lunch or gym or even after school activities. It's like it's also a place where you can hang out. But at this time of I think of your life, it's like these are the moments where you're really going to want to learn some of these major academic abilities that you can have. Not to say that you can't have a relationship. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that have a relationship with someone and they're doing totally fine with school. But it's just the main concern is just being able to balance it out. Um, Set you can't put your focus into one thing or the other. You're gonna have to find a way to balance out, and you can't uh, yeah. That's balancing is I would say is a key part to having a relationship in school.
Thank you, Arav. Anushka, there's a couple more questions. I'll leave the last question for Vedika to moderate. Uh, we live in a society where there are all people with different preferences of gender, LGBTQ, right? Do you feel, when I say you, do students feel concerns if they have a friend who prefers a different gender? Do you, and again, when I say you, it's students, right? Youth. Do you feel that the friendship, the ways you interact with anyone who has a different preference affects your life, your academic life, or your school life? And again, I'll just say your is student in general. It does not have to be you specifically.
Yeah, I would say students definitely, especially at my school, we have a great variety of students because with over 4,000 students, you're bound to have so many different types of people, different personalities, different genders, different personal preferences, different interests. But I think that different genders, especially as you mentioned in the question, different genders isn't a thing that really hurts relationships or makes relationships really different. It's just another part of someone. It's another part of their personality, another part of who they are. And I think it's really important that everyone embraces themselves, as we talked about earlier, just being yourself, putting yourself out there. But I think that it's not necessarily a thing to like stand out that these people are of a certain gender or these people are different than others, but it's more about the inclusivity, the getting to know different types of people, the different experiences you may have with different people of different backgrounds. Personally, I do have friends who are in the LGBTQ plus community, and it's not necessarily a different relationship or has a different effect on my school or academic life than my other relationships with friends. they're just another group of friends, another group of friends with different types of backgrounds that I've been able to have a friendship with. Going back to what we talked about earlier about the balance between different things, it's not just between the relationships you have with others and the things you want to do, but I would also say the relationship with yourself is so important. I know, going back to what Sahana and Vidika especially were talking about, how people want to find themselves, and Ria was saying, like, it's so important to just find not only who you are, but also people who are similar to you. Just make sure that you work on, in high school especially, not just yourself, but also your relationship with yourself, how you give yourself breaks, how you give yourself time to do the fun things you like to do or to hang out with friends. Like Arav and Swaroop said, it's not like school is just not an academic place at all. It's definitely a social place. It's a place to find people who have similar interests to you. It's a place to find other people who you can have a relationship with for a lifetime, to have a friendship with for a lifetime. As I said in my episode that I released this morning, it's not just about the people that you're meeting today. It's about the people that you're meeting tomorrow, the people that you're staying friends with throughout high school and beyond.
Thank you so much, Anushka. The last question, Vedika, I'll let you moderate. One piece of advice which our youth panelists would like to give their parents and their teachers as they go back to school. So we have the last 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. I guess I will start. So a lot of the time what I hear from elder people, whether it be teachers or parents, is that this generation has it easy. This generation, is lazy. They sit down, they don't do anything. And I think when you start off with that comment, it becomes for a very aggressive conversation, and there's nothing helpful that comes out of it. So what I think teachers and parents should do is to, kind of put themselves in our shoes, try and approach a conversation with an open mind, and ask how your kid or whatever relationship you have to that person, how are they doing? Ask what you can do to help. Ask, what's new in the school year? What's new? How can I help you with whatever you're struggling with? And just create an open environment, because a lot of the time kids don't feel safe enough or able to create an open dialogue. And I think those are where the most healthy and helpful conversations take place. So just create an open environment, go in with an open mind, and listen. That's all. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think one thing piece of advice that I would give to parents and to teachers is to have just a little bit of understanding, I guess. I think that one thing that a lot of maybe like adults and stuff, they don't realize is that there are so many different aspects, so many different facets, things going on in teenagers' lives right now, with everything new and like things that, to be honest, like we're not as the same as the previous generations, and that's not saying worse or better or anything like that. They're just different. And so I just think that one thing that I would say is having a little bit of understanding, having a little bit of kind of a grace period, or having a little bit of grace for the teenagers that are kind of just trying to find their way like everybody else. And trying to understand that everyone makes mistakes along the way, and that everybody has stressors along the way, and that everyone truly is just trying their best, and just like we said before, like helping them move through that journey on their own.
I agree with Vedika and Sahana, and I think another thing to consider is most teenagers or people in school or college, whether it's like flunking your grades or not going to school, it's mainly for a reason. At least from what I've observed, no one does it just to do it. No one wants to get bad grades. No one wants to like skip school. No one wants to feel bad. So I think instead of getting mad or being like, why are you like this? I think the better question to ask is what's going on. And again, with what Vedika said, like, how can I help? Like, why is this happening? because most of the time it's a reason, whether it be mental health, relationships, just too much schoolwork. And again, there's a lot of ways that adults in our lives can help us, because in general, it's just hard to be a teen or a young adult with social media. And I think that's the biggest difference between our generation and the previous generation. Social media is really hard, and that's caused mental health to get worse, or relationships to get worse. So I think in general, the better question to ask is, why is this happening, and what can I do to help?
Yeah. Anybody else want to add on?
Going off of what Ria said and Sahana said, I would say that for the adults out there listening to this, just make sure that you identify the real root of the problem. Try to identify what the teen actually needs to help them get through whatever they're going through. Whether it be anxiety, depression, as we've seen, those are at record highs right now. So Vidika mentioned it's so important that we have to address this for teens. But it's not just that, it's also like the little stressors, like just going back to school, your first day of school. Was it good? Was it bad? Were there some things you're concerned about for this year? Those little things that may be affecting how you're feeling right now, that is what adults should be asking for. They should be speaking to their teens or other teens they know, and just not only creating the open environment, but also listening. I feel like speaking is important, like we're doing right now. We're speaking, we're getting awareness out there, but also listening is important. Like listening afterwards, listening to teens out there, listening to what their feelings are, what they're going through, and then seeing how you might be able to help them.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that marks, sort of the conclusion of our discussion today. Thank you, everybody, for joining me and promoting healthy discussion. Anybody else who's watching, if you have any other questions, make sure to email Sanjeevani, their website. Would be happy to have, another one of these discussions about any topics that you might want to hear about. And I wish you luck for the upcoming school year. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.